Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Anexis, I'm a blind author, content creator, and freelancer, and welcome to this review. Sorry, I'm a little out of it. I've been editing for a little bit. Anyway, at least for this video. I did not expect this video to be as long as it is, but this is a review of The Last Flight. And I had a lot to say on certain things, not to mention some stuff I added in after edits. So I hope you enjoy this long video if you enjoy long form content. I am not going to give any updates here in this intro like I used to. I think I'm going to keep this short, one, because this video is very long, and two, because I did give updates in the end. So if you would like to hear any current updates from me, like why this video is so late, you will have to listen to the end or see if you can skip to it. I don't know how to add timestamps, you guys. So see if you can skip to that eventually. But I do have updates at the end. I have a couple, so yeah. Anyway, I'm going to let you enjoy this review, and hopefully it is entertaining or informative or, well, anything really. By the time you are listening to this or watching this, I will be on vacation, and I will also be a recently graduated student, and I will have my bachelor's in English and Spanish. I'm excited. I mean, that also does mean that by the time I come back, I have to look for work and be depressed, but I will be graduated, and I will have my double major with English and creative, with a concentration in creative writing and Spanish. So yeah, I will have my bachelor's and see where it goes, you guys. But I'll keep you updated on these videos when I can. But for now, enjoy this review, and I will see you on the other side. I guess I'll plug really quickly that if you are interested in getting more content from me, subscribe and turn on notifications so you're aware when I release a video. Also, if you would like to see my writing, go to my website and subscribe to my blog. I am trying to take it in a different direction right now. I'm not posting as occasionally as I used to. I do talk a little bit about that later in the video at the end. I'm going to, I think, take it in a different direction. And I am going to do that essentially. But I have that, and if you do want to see more writing from me, you can go there, or you can check out my books. I have my debut literary fantasy novelette and a poetry collection, and I am working on books to release for this year. Hopefully one, at least. One of them will probably likely be on Kindle Unlimited, and if I finish the novella edits, I will hopefully release it later on this year. I'm hoping here. It's not set in stone. I'm not pushing myself that hard right now. So that will be there. And if you would like to support me and the work that I do, I have a Ko-fi that I will link below. No memberships, just one-time stuff. I actually don't have the bandwidth to figure out membership, if I'm being honest. But yeah, you have all of that will be linked in the description. Thank you so much. And I will see you on the other side a couple of times this video. So I'll see you soon. So this is The Last Flight. This is The Last Flight. That is what we're talking about today. And this book was a selection for the Envisions College Success Programs book club. If you are a college student who is blind or visually impaired, this may be a really good resource for you. We have meetups twice a week where we kind of just have casual conversation and answer any questions. You are able to communicate with a mentor, and they have a lot of resources. So if you would like if anything like this sounds good for you, and you would like a community and some help as you go into your college journey or continue your college journey, I definitely recommend it. I'll link the website below if you are interested. And we have this book club, which is all year round, and we read one book a month, and we meet on the last Monday of every month to discuss. And that is kind of what that is. So if you're new, that's what this is. So this is a selection of this. And When I read the synopsis for this book, sometimes I go blind into these selections because I'm like, cool, fine. But when I read the synopsis for this book, the first thing it reminded me of was actually a soap opera that I watched years ago because the synopsis felt soap opera esque, and it felt very that way. So I'm like, okay, cool. It felt interesting. So I have talked about this soap opera before, but in case you have not heard of this soap opera, let me kind of give you a synopsis and kind of let you know where my mind was at when I started reading this book. So the soap opera that this book kind of reminded me of is called El Rostro de Analia, which translates to The Face of Analia. And basically, it has the plot of this soap opera. It started airing, by the way, sometime in 2009, I think, in Telemundo. And basically, this soap opera is about a woman named Mariana who finds out. It starts off with she has like she has a perfect marriage, or so she believes. Like she has a perfect marriage, perfect family, great. She has a daughter, and she is very shrewd at business. But in her anniversary party, she finds out that her husband is cheating on her with her cousin. And very angrily, she storms out of the house and she goes into her car, which turns out it's broken, like it hasn't been fixed, so it's broken. And behind her is a woman pointing a gun at her. And what we find out beforehand, the background to this is that the woman who's pointing a gun at her name is Analia, or which is basically her alias. Her real name is Ana Lucia, and um, she is. We find out later a bunch of other things, but just know that she has to prove her loyalty to her boyfriend. At least that's how we kind of make it out. Like she has to prove her loyalty to her boyfriend, Ricky Montana, who is basically a gangster. And they need to get rid of Mariana because she is a risk to his money laundering business because they're using like the company, his company or what, her company, and her cousin is basically doing this, and so she does this, but she really doesn't want to kill Mariana, but she goes with this, right? And she makes it look like she's gonna kill her, and they accelerate, and eventually when they're far away, Analia does try to stop her, and she's like, "Why? Like things don't matter right now," because she's still upset, and the car drives off a cliff. So Mariana is presumed to be dead, but then a body, someone is found by a doctor, Armando, and his assistant Roberto, and they find and they think this is someone named Analia, and what they see, based on what they see in her wallet, and the pictures in the wallet, and they then take this woman and use experimental cloning and stuff like that to reconstruct her face. And however, when this woman wakes up, she has no memory, and they call her Ana because they find out that Analia has a criminal background where she was a gangster, an exotic dancer, and so on and so forth. So they just tell her she's Ana, and Armando for some reason doesn't let her leave the house, but eventually she does. And goes to the beach and saves a drowning Adriana, who is Mariana's daughter and her husband Daniel's daughter. And she saves her. She meets Daniel. They kind of get together. They're about to get married at some point. She becomes Adriana's nanny before they get together, and they're about to get married. But then she is recognized as the woman who was with Mariana during the accident, and she is then sent to jail, which is where she finds out, because this captain eventually recruits her, and this detective, and she finds out that Analia was not a criminal. Analia was an undercover agent, and she was trying to get Ricky Montana to jail. And the reason she did this is because he ended up sorry, I'm coughing, you guys. I am sick, or I'm trying to get over a cough. And she is doing this out of revenge because Ricky killed her boyfriend and the love of her life. So she is undercover, and as a way to get revenge, and also just to get him to jail and finish what he started. So now she is stuck trying to uh, live the life of a woman she does not remember, and trying to kind of fix everything. It kind of all that's kind of like the basic plot. There is more. This novella is full of drama, a great plot. It has really complex characters and family dynamics. Oh, I love this. It is like 178 episodes of pure joy, and I could not have asked for anything better. So yes, I very much enjoy this novella. So when I looked at this, not that I had the same expectations, because I don't think you can copy a classic, but I was like, okay, cool. It reminds me of that, so I'm interested in reading it. Well, I didn't have those expectations though. I was very curious as to where it's gonna go, and because it's very soap opera esque, the summary feels soap opera esque. I kind of just was curious, so that's kind of how I started reading it. Now, I do have my opinions on this book. It's not the best book I read, but it is something I actually really enjoyed. So, before we begin, let us go to the synopsis, and then we'll talk about everything. Okay, so I have a quick clarification to make in the here before we get to the synopsis. By the way, if you hear movement, excuse that. I am doing laundry. I am fixing clothes that I did laundry for like 3 weeks ago because I am a little bit lazy. And my mom reminded me of this, and I realized I should fix this before I go into before I get a sleep test done today. I might explain a little bit of that at the end, but just know that if you hear noise. But anyway, I do want to make a bit of a clarification. I recorded this, I think it was about 2 years ago-ish. And at the time, I was very happy to promote Envision's organization for college students and stuff like that. However, there was in 2024 a problem that we had. Essentially, we were it was announced very last minute that it would be shut down. And originally it was until like summer, around June-ish. It was a very last minute shutdown. We did not get any good warning. Like, those of us who attended meetups were able to essentially know what was happening. We were able to get a bit of an early start, but everyone else who did not attend meetup regularly essentially learned that Envision was just shutting down. There would be no mentoring services for that time, that it was going to be shut down. There would be no type of service available, like nothing. It was just kind of like shut down, and students were left with a like in middle of the semester. If they needed services, they really didn't have anything. So some of us were able to essentially like get together in a WhatsApp community and everything. Like, some of us were able to just to provide support for each other and everything. However, that still left a lot of students without any services, and so on and so forth. So that was that. And we ended up putting up a petition in order to hopefully get some signatures to get Envision to do to essentially go back and give us what we had, because they said it was supposed to be a break for them to like analyze the like what they were giving and give us a bit of a comprehensive take a comprehensive look and come up with new strategies and so on and so forth. And we wanted to remind them of, like, because this was, to be clear, this was a bit of a fuck up. You just shut down and left a bunch of students without any services whatsoever. And at least in our experience, the people that we were told to contact were not answering. The person we were supposed to contact did not answer any of the emails when they were contacted. So we didn't actually get any help if we wanted any services. So that happened. So we had a petition. I do not believe I shared it in the channel, but I probably should have. And I guess because I was sharing it other places and I was a little in and out, I just did not. But we organized the petition. We did all this. Unfortunately, though, it did come back, but it did not come back as what it was. Now, what it is, it's now called Envision Workforce Pathways, which is now directed at college students and people who want people looking for employment, as well as anyone, I guess, who wants a higher education or different forms of employment. I'm still not quite clear. However, part of what we had been theorizing is that they had lost funding, and that they needed funding. So that's the reason that they shut down, rather than essentially letting us know. We assumed it was a problem of funding. And we were kind of proven when they sent the email and they explained that they were looking to maintain the program, but also make it financially sustainable. And the way that they did it was to make this program related more toward employment, if anything else. Envision's College Success Program no longer exists like the way it used to. And the way that they are now doing that, the program is barely up on its feet as we speak. It is a program that, in my opinion, will not take off, because what they want to do is they want to get certified by each state's services for the blind. So some of you might know it as like some kind of division for service for the blind or something like that. In my state, it is called the Commission for the Blind. And essentially what they want to get certified to provide training for the students that already have commission cases. I do not know what they plan to do for people that do not have these cases, because I knew someone who was looking for who applied for a case, but it was 2 years, and she still didn't get a counselor or anything. I don't know what they plan to do for those people and services, but at the very moment, that is their aim. I don't know how many states they have, but I do doubt that this will take off, because these services, generally speaking, have their own employment services. At least my commission does. They have their own employment services. Mine, for example, I live in New Jersey, and they have something called EDGE, both for high school students and for college students until age, I think, 22. So the question is, why would they essentially agree to certify this company? Why would they put it in an outside training when they have their own form, So I don't think this will take off. All this to say that I am not comfortable promoting this anymore, but I recorded it at a time that it was. But I wanted to clear kind of this up, because I'm not comfortable. You will, if there are other books that I will review either in shorts or so on that have been possibly read for this book club. I haven't looked through the list of all the books, but I am not comfortable promoting this organization to you. Or any members of you who are blind in my audience. I'm not comfortable. I do not think, I think before, the way it was, that this program would have actually served you, but I do not think it will do that now. It has been it kind of came back around November, I think, if I remember correctly. And it has not really done much. Now all they have is the twice a week meetups, and a book in the book club eventually got picked up once a month. However, even the meetups have called a bit. There used to be more mentors in the meetup, and we were able to get different forms of advice, and each question had different perspectives from the different mentors. Now we do not have that. Those of us who have stayed, including me, we and no one else, nobody has a mentor, because they are still not certified. It seems in these states, it almost feels like they don't know what they're doing. So I don't feel comfortable promoting this to you. So you will not find a link to the website in my description anymore. I said I would, but you won't find it, because I just don't feel comfortable promoting an organization that will likely not serve you at all. If anything, you will just you'll still get possibly questions answered at Meetup, but you're not going to get the full service that I think you deserve if you are going to be there. I don't think Envision at this very moment seems to know what they're doing, and we haven't really received any answers to tell us to prove otherwise. So because of that, I'm no longer going to be promoting it, and I just don't feel comfortable doing that. I kind of just wanted to clarify that. I was going to do it in an intro, but this just felt like the perfect place to do so. So yeah, thank you so much. Back to the review. 2 women, 2 flights, one last chance to disappear. Claire Cook has a perfect life, married to the scion of a political dynasty with a Manhattan townhouse and a staff of 10. Her surroundings are elegant, her days flawlessly choreographed, and her future auspicious. But behind closed doors, nothing is quite as it seems. That perfect husband has a temper that burns as bright as his promising political career, and he's not above using his staff to track Claire's every move, making sure she's living up to his impossible standards. But what he doesn't know is that Claire has worked for months on a plan to vanish. A chance meeting in an airport bar brings her together with a woman whose circumstances seem equally equally dire. Together they make a last minute decision to switch tickets. Claire taking Eva's flight to Oakland and Eva traveling to Puerto Rico as Claire. They believe the swap will give each of them the head start they need to begin again somewhere far away. But when the flight to Puerto Rico goes down, Claire realizes it's no longer a head start but a new life, cut off, out of options, with the news of her death about to explode in the media. Claire will assume Eva's identity, and along with it, the secrets Eva fought so hard to keep hidden. The Last Flight is the story of two women, both alone, both scared, and one agonizing decision that will change the trajectory of both of their lives. So, this book. Okay, so the prose automatically, very good. I enjoyed the prose. I think the prose is one of the book's like best features. I really enjoyed it. It was some of my favorites. It made it really easy for me to continue reading. So I highly enjoyed it. And before I continue with the rest of the review, though I don't plan to talk about it, and if I do, I will give a content warning. There is, while not explicitly shown that I can remember, I would like to still give a content warning for abuse, specifically domestic violence. And so keep that in mind when you read this book, because it is there, it is discussed, it is there are moments, if I remember correctly, that there is a little bit of explicitness, but not as much. But there are themes of that, so keep that in mind as you read. Anyway, let us continue. The prose, good. I enjoyed it. Now, the story writing itself and the way it's told, I have an issue with this, and keep in mind that this is me being very, very nitpicky at this point, because as a reader, I don't like this. And because I don't like this as a reader, this is gonna be something that kind of irks me a bit. So one of the things I tend to dislike when I read is when a story has it has what how do I okay it's when a story has like two different point of views in there, they kind of shift. So I don't mean like different point of views as in, say, Pearl and Mary are telling the story. I don't mean it that way. I mean the shift between first and third person, and I just don't enjoy it. And the way that the story is told is that Claire's chapters are told in first person, and Eva's chapters are told in first person. And I don't enjoy this because I personally just don't like this. I think it's kind of, I don't really think there's a reason for that to be there. Like I don't think there's a reason for it to go that way. Now, there might be a reason here, and I will theorize on this in a moment, but I will explain the reason I don't like it really quickly. I don't like this kind of shift because it takes me out of the story personally, and because it takes me out of the story, I find myself not liking the arrangement of that. So I don't like it for this reason. I know that Other people may not, that this may not bother them. It does bother me as a reader. I just don't enjoy this. So um I will talk about quickly these point of views. So in Claire's chapter, in first person, it is told first person present. By the way, Claire's chapters are first person present, and then, what's the name of this thing? Oh, and then Eva's chapters are third person past. So first person present as a point of view automatically gives the story a an amount of urgency that is kind of necessary. So it does give us a it talks to it speaks to the urgency of the story. If it is in first person present, you kind of are with the character, you're right in their heads as things are happening, and that is one of the best things about first person present. Usually the other issue with first person present that I tend to find a disadvantage is that because you're in one character's head, and this can be for third person too, because you're in one character's head, you do not get to see um, you do not get to see uh, uh, the other characters the other characters arcs around them. So the other characters are kind of like they're there, and you probably like them, and you probably like the arc a little bit, but you don't really get to see their arcs. You don't get to see their thoughts. You don't get to see any of that, and because of that, it does become a bit it can be a bit difficult to like to feel like the other characters have an arc. At least this is my opinion as a reader. Third person past is it's a very distant point of view. You are distant from the characters a bit, and that is something that it can do well, and that is something I find with like third person past, at least when I read it. I usually prefer writing my stories in third person present or first person present, and use what's it called? And use like um what is it? Oh, and use like past of both point of views for flashbacks. That's usually how I tell my stories, but third person past is present. So my assumption with the way that these point of views, my theory with the way that these point of views were like written, is that the reason it was done like this is because of the ending, which we will talk about the ending later, but it's because of Eva's journey and the way that things happen. I think the author wanted to give us a little bit of distance from her, and that's why it's told in third person past, because it does happen in the past, so we want to keep it distant from the present storyline, which is mainly Claire's. That is my theory as to why these point of views were chosen. Now listen, there are no hard and fast rules for writing. You can, and you can write in whatever point of view you want, and you should, because it is your writing, it is an expression of you. So write in whatever point of view you like. I as a reader just don't like this, so I don't write like this. I don't enjoy them very much. If I were to, when I write, I've written first person and third person point of views in one story at the same time, where the point of view shift. And the reason I've done it like this before is when I usually want to have a reason for the shift. In one of the stories I wrote, for example, or I've written, in one of the stories I plan to release, I don't know when yet, I'm still in the editing phase, but basically one of the stories I plan to release is the second book in the Child of Death series, and it is written both in first and third person point of view. And the reason it is written in both those point of views is because one of the characters is telling us a story from their point of view, and we're seeing it. It's kind of like she kind of has like this long thing where she's telling us a story, and she's telling us a story, and then it shifts to third person when we are in present time, because she's kind of like, it's like when if she's telling you a story, kind of like if you're being told a story in when you're talking to someone, and that's like the way it's written. But I usually do not like when it's like when there's, it feels like, if you could if you can have the same effect through the same point of view, I usually don't like switching. So that's kind of how I did it, but that's my theory, and that's kind of how I feel about these point of views. I don't have a it's not a bad thing. It's just me as a reader being nitpicky. So I just wanted to put that out there, just so you know. The other thing, now we're gonna move on to pacing. The pacing is good. I mean, it is mainly really fast paced, but it also feels slow at the same time. It like feels like a medium paced slash fast paced story. It's pretty well told. All the events are really built up to pretty well, and I actually really enjoyed that the pacing. I read it in like 2 days, by the way, um, because I have like I basically just kind of have I basically just have a whole thing where it's like I usually read book club books kind of like a bit last minute, and that's my thing. That's my own issue. So yeah. But it was good. The themes I think are explored really, really well. There are themes of again themes of abuse and themes of um, liberation as well, and like freedom. And I think it was done really well. Like it felt like the author was sensitive exploring everything. It didn't feel like smashed in a way. Like it didn't feel nothing that was written felt pointless. Everything felt very much there. So I like the way it was explored. I think that if anything, the execution of certain things should have been a little bit what could have been better. But the themes are explored really well. They're giving it a lot of time on the page, and um, they're handled, or they feel like they're handled very well. It's very very interesting to see that. So that is my thing. Now for characters. I love these characters. I especially love the women. This is a very femi-centric book. And I am now saying femi-centric because I am taking a class currently as of recording called uh, Image and Identity, Representation of Latin American Women in Film and Fiction. And like the movies that we're watching are very much like women in the center, so femicentric. Anyway, this is a very femicentric book where it focuses on the women more than anything else, and I like that. I don't think I've read many books like this that focus on that dynamic between women, and I've read some, but I don't think it was to the extent. So I enjoyed these characters. I love them. I found myself kind of just like being kind of like, yay, I love them so much. I think they have a really good dynamic. Let me see who's calling me, you guys. Hang on a sec. Okay, does anyone hate when unknown numbers call you? Because I do. They are annoying. Anyway, I enjoyed these dynamics between the women. I think our leading ladies especially, I think have a very strong voice and are also really, really intelligent. And I love reading intelligent characters. It's amazing. I enjoyed it a lot. So one of the things when I wrote my blog post on it, which if it is out before this video, it might be because I am now trying to get down to editing a bunch of my writing content. Or I'm going to try to do that, based on what I can kind of do. Basically, one of the things I said in my blog is I think this is a really, really good example of how to write female friendships, support systems, and allies. And I think it is. I hold to that. I think this is a really great, if you want to write really, really good female dynamics, I think this is a really great book to study because it shows the different forms and the different dynamics women may or have in a certain situation. So for this one, for example, like the way that they kind of just talked to each other, the way that they helped each other, it was very supportive. It was really, really nice. And I think this is a really, really great example, and is a great book to study as to how their dynamics may change, or like how to write really good female dynamics and not write our like this girl on girl hate. We don't need girl on girl hate. Like we need more female friendships in fiction. I read a pretty good amount of female friendships in fiction, I think, but honestly, we need more. The more the better. So so I'm excited. I really hope that people look at this book and kind of just, see like the different ways it could be written. And I liked it. It was good. The dynamics are good. Now, I want to talk about the endings of the story. There are 2 endings, and we're going to talk about both endings. So, this will require spoilers. So if you are someone who does not want the ending spoiled to you, get out of this video because I'm going to spoil those endings. I will do some broad spoilers. I'm not going to tell you how we get there or anything like this, but I will spoil the ending. I still think you should read this book. I don't think that me spoiling the endings of the story will give you a will potentially like ruin your experience, because I'm not going to tell you how we got there. So I think that you should still read it, but know that I am going to spoil the ending or the endings. So 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so we're gonna start with Claire's ending first. And Claire's ending is really interesting. We kind of just see her off in the beginning. One sec. Hold on. Okay, another quick clarification related to girl on girl hate. As I said, in my specific reading, I generally read a lot more female friendships. There are a couple where I do have like girl on girl hate or woman on woman hate, and so on and so forth. Now, I don't think that writing female friendships and everything, I don't think it's a one size, like when we write women, I don't think it's necessarily a one size fits all kind of thing, right? We want more, I think what I want, at least in my reading, which thankfully for me, I think I get it most of the time when I read the books I read, is more nuanced women. We want more of we don't necessarily just want archetypes, right? We want more nuance. If there is going to be woman on woman hate, why is that a thing? Why do we have it in our stories? It does our environment. Is the story and is the environment of the story and setting fostering that woman on woman hate? And also examine, why is it? Is it, for example, I did not finish this book, full disclosure, I DNF'd it, not because it was bad. I actually want to pick it up again. It's more like it just wasn't the time, and I would have probably preferred reading it in audio, and it wasn't in the library, so I was reading it in Braille. But in the book Trial of the Sun Queen, there is some woman on woman hate, but it's understandable why it is written in that way. They are essentially in a place where they're being all offered this position where they are they essentially are encouraged to compete against each other and to essentially in some ways hate each other in some ways. It's a bit more encouraged. It's competition. It makes sense, right? But also writing woman on woman hate to some degree, at least in some experiences, it does touch on real world things. So we don't want to necessarily take that away in our fiction. We don't necessarily want to like actually remove remove ourselves from writing it. What I think we should do and it is essentially examine why we often, we know the reason, right? We know the reason. It's patriarchy and misogyny and all that stuff, some internalized misogyny and everything. But the thing with fiction is that it gives us the opportunity to examine the reasons we do things. And in fiction, if you're looking for it, it gives us the opportunity to change the ending and to give us ourselves and our characters a better tomorrow and a better world, if you would. So I think there is something to be said about writing woman on woman or girl on girl hate and doing it well. It requires nuance, and not everyone, I think, has it all the time. Not even some of my favorite authors, if I'm being honest. I just think it requires nuance. I think we can still write it. We just need the nuance to come with it, right? So I think it's an interesting conversation. I have heard more on the, why do we write girl on girl hate? We need more female friendships. And I agree with that side, but I also understand that there's a nuance. And I think girl on girl hate can reflect on real world things. And sometimes we bring our real world experiences into our fiction. So it makes sense why it's being written. I just think it should be more of a nuanced conversation. So I just wanted to put that out there, and we're going to go back to the last clip of this review. So enjoy the rest of this video, and I will see you on the other side. Okay, sorry, I'm back. So we start seeing, we see Claire first when she's planning her escape, and we see them, we see her doing so when and how this kind of whole thing kind of happens. And when she does fly, when she does end up meeting Eva, they're both desperate and they just kind of like, change flights, and they do so without, thinking too much about it. However, unfortunately for her, by the time her original plan, the reason this happened is because her original plan was ruined, since her original plan was to go to this other place. She was supposed to go to another place and then disappear from there because she was supposed to attend something else. But then there was a natural disaster in Puerto Rico, and she went, and because they sent her there instead, they changed the events, and then they had her husband do something instead, do what she was supposed to do, and then they sent her away. And this unfortunately ruined her plans because she was supposed to get a package with money and stuff, and like a fake identity and everything, and now he was the one receiving it, and that is kind of what led to this desperate change. And that's as far as I'm going to turn in the beginning. But basically, we see the desperate change, and we kind of see it. And then Claire, then we find out later, when she is kind of like trying to settle into this new thing, that we found out from the news that the plane to Puerto Rico crashed, and that Eva is dead. And this is how she starts assuming her identity. And then we kind of follow the rest of the story, where she eventually learns all the stuff having to do with Eva and everything that happens to her. We kind of get it revealed in Eva's point of view, but we also get Claire's point of view as she finds out all the secrets that she technically has been that it technically are now hers to do so, to deal with. And we find this, we kind of have her live through this, and then by the end she decides, because it is eventually realized, because she did fake her death, but it is eventually realized that that her husband eventually realizes she's alive, basically. And then he's looking for her, and she realizes, I can't necessarily disappear, and because he's still gonna try to find me, right? And she decides to reveal everything that happened with herself, and then she gives him kind of like a pretty bad public image, because she reveals all the abuse and everything that happened for the amount of time that they were married, which I think was about 10 to 13 years. And then when that happens, after that, we have a time skip. And we have a time skip for a month, where we find out that everything kind of gets tied up. Like, he's being, like, he and like this foundation is being investigated. And she is now she's now living, like, moving to find a new place, and getting a new job, and the assets are now withheld, but their joint assets are now withheld, and stuff like that, and her attorneys negotiated some stuff, and she now has to receive a stipend for basically, at least until for some time, at least until everything is done by him, technically. And I don't know. I feel like the ending for this was just like, it was very tied up. She has a very tied up ending, and everything kind of just, I don't know. I felt like I wanted to see the in between a little bit as to how she handled the end of that stuff. I found the ending kind of interesting, because by the end of this, it is definitely believed that Eva is dead, and we just kind of don't get the all that closure. Basically, we do have another ending to talk about, but we have that, yeah, she has kind of been set free, which, good, because I agree with this agenda. Women should be free, and victims should absolutely be believed. Like, the message I think I got with Claire's ending from this story is that we should believe victims, and we should always, take their side, as we should. That is correct, in my opinion. And we have, and I think that is the message we have. I do think that the execution of this ending, it was a little too, I did not love the execution of this ending. I think it could have been a little bit better, but I generally enjoyed it. I think it could have been It could have been done a little bit better. I don't know exactly what to pinpoint for you. I just didn't enjoy the execution of the ending, but I did enjoy the I do think that it was very much a tied up ending. And the thing with this ending and the other ending, Eva's ending, which we're going to talk about, is that it kind of ends. One of them is like closed and like, you know, tied up and everything gets resolved, sort of. And then the other one is ambiguous. We're going to talk about it. And basically up to reader interpretation. And we're going to talk about this because it's interesting. And it connects, and this second ending sort of connects to something with Claire. So the ending, Eva's ending, is one where I'm just like, Eva got cheated. But basically what happens is we find out, one of the things we find out in the story is that the meeting between Eva and Claire was orchestrated by Eva. I'm not going to tell you how, but it was orchestrated. And Eva lies to Claire as to why she's leaving and all that stuff. And then they just take separate flights. We then get, of course, the news that things are, that the airplane crashed. But there's also another part of the story where we have like the news, like the footage being released. And it makes you, as the reader, believe that Eva is alive. And what happens is that we have the footage, and Claire sees this pink sweater that she gave Eva. It is a pink cashmere sweater, I believe, that was given to her by her husband's aunt, I think. And she told, and the aunt was giving her some advice about like their family or whatever. And she was given this sweater, and she had it, but she gave it to Eva, I guess, so that it looked like it was her going to because they change clothes and everything. But so I guess so that it looked like it was her going through the you know, the footage, because, you know, her husband, Claire's husband, was definitely keeping kept definitely keeping track of her. And because of that, they then used that, basically. They changed so that it looked like she was going in there, and stuff like that. So she thinks Eva is alive, but there is no confirmation of this. So it becomes like a really interesting red herring where it's like, especially by the ending, where it's like, is Eva alive or dead? And what happens is we reach the ending and we have an epilogue in the story. And it is from Eva's point of view. And when they changed flights and everything, Eva was going to try not to get in the flight. We also find out that, also throughout the story, by the way, that Claire's seat is empty, which is interesting because this is going to be important in a minute. We find out that Claire's seat is empty, and what we find out is Eva was about to kind of not go in to the plane and not go into the flight and have someone else maybe to switch with her or whatever. But then she gets caught by an agent, and she's like, hey, are you okay? You need to get in the plane or whatever. And she gets in the plane. And what we learn in the epilogue is, we don't see this, but we learn in the epilogue is that she planned to ask for her seat to be upgraded, which would explain why her seat is empty. And then we kind of just see it fly off, and then we learn that the plane crashed and that she's possibly dead, right? That is kind of how we learn. That is the ending that we have. So all this information leaves it up to reader interpretation as to whether Eva is dead or alive. And it's interesting because basically Eva kind of got cheated because she died. But also the seat is empty, which means that Eva was probably able to upgrade, or if she wasn't able to upgrade, since we do not know. Actually, we don't see the plane fly. We see her stepping into the plane. So, and we don't know if she was able to upgrade or not. So assuming that Eva was not able to upgrade, it's possible then that she escaped and she is somewhere else and she was able to survive. If she was able to upgrade, then it's possible that she is dead. In my headcanon, because I do like Eva and I think she was a wonderful character and I think she deserves everything. And because we see the pink sweater, think in my head canon is that Eva is alive and thriving somewhere else, just hiding, and like she disappeared and she got what she wanted. And it was a very interesting. That's my head canon. My head canon is that she's alive, but again, it is ambiguous enough that you can interpret whatever ending you want at this point for Eva. But Claire's is not as ambiguous. I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like the execution, I think, for Claire's ending, even for Eva's ending, needed a little bit more just to get me there, but it was mainly fine. Overall, I did enjoy this story. It was good. It was really interesting. It was a fast-paced read. No, it's nothing like, El Rostro de Analia, and it doesn't have those soap opera elements that I somehow imagined because I read this and I went, yes, it feels like a soap opera. But what it does have is a really good story, and it has a great cast of female characters who I think are written very well, and really great female dynamics, and a message about liberation and believing people when they say something happens to them. And I think I like it. I like it. It was good. It was enjoyable. 3 stars. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Okay, you guys, we have reached the end. If there is one final thought I have for this review, is that one thing I did not mention either, because I was entirely at the time, when I recorded it, I may have not been paying attention to this writing device as much, or whatever other reason, is that this book, the way that this book is written, because it's written with these women's point of view, and we're finding out the secrets in the point of view of both women. One of the things that this book uses quite effectively, based on my description, is dramatic irony. So if you're not aware, dramatic irony is essentially that essentially means that the audience knows something the character doesn't. This is going to be interesting to say. I will say this. I do not think that a lot of the authors I necessarily read, including Sarah J. Maas, whom is my favorite author, is necessarily very good at giving us plot twists. Okay, I really don't think she is. I think she is essentially really good at planting information, setting up things. But I think when she gives us certain plot twists, specifically where characters do things off page, I don't dare. A lot of the time, they're not earned. I still love her work, but I feel that as a writer and a reader, I don't think it's done well. I think a lot of the authors that I have read as well, if you read Lightlog, for example, you get a bunch of like twists that randomly come up, but also don't make random sense. It's like the authors now are looking for plot twists all the time. Like they want to give the reader plot twists in order to give us a random shocking twist. And it doesn't always work. A lot of the time it doesn't feel earned, especially depending how you write your character, right? So dramatic irony makes it so that you don't necessarily have to have a twist, but you can use it, and we can see the different responses. So instead of a shocker, if you use dramatic irony, what you get is more of the different, you can make that quote unquote twist hit twice in a way, right? Because you're going to get different reactions. So let me give you the best example, in my opinion, there are 2 great examples, I think, of dramatic irony that I know of that are working well. But actually 3. First of all, I mentioned at least a couple times in this video the idea that this, to me, had a soap opera-esque kind of synopsis, and that is one of the things that got me extremely interested in this book. And I hold to that. I was very interested in this book because that synopsis to me felt very soap opera-esque, and it reminded me of El Rostro de Analia. However, one of the things to say here is that soap operas use dramatic irony to a really high degree. We will often know something because another character reveals it, and then at some point, either in that same episode or in the next one or in a couple of others, we get to see the character. We get to see the character react to the surprise. Now you can say, but hey, that's like it's visual, it's a visual medium, it makes sense, but you can use it in books too. And I'm going to give you a a story example, and I'm going to give you another visual medium example. And the two things that I can think of are The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe and Dragon Ball. Oh yes, we are going really, really interesting. We're going classic and we're going somewhat modern. Okay, so in A Cask of Amontillado, what we have is we have our main character who is then inviting someone named Fortunato to he essentially manipulates Fortunato to go with him to go taste a wine. He said he's going to ask, because Fortunato is a rich dude. They're both rich. And our main characters and narrators plan is to get revenge because Fortunato, I think, insulted him and stuff. And he's like, I'm going to get revenge. And I know that I can manipulate him because he was like, I'm going to go to this other person to find out this wine. He's an expert in wines. And Fortunato's like, no, this guy does not know about wines. I'm good. Let's go. And I will, and you go. So he agrees to go to our protagonist's wine cellar. And throughout it all, we know that he's going to die. There is a lot of symbolism that he's going to die. We know that the protagonist is going to die. Also, if the protagonist is planning to kill him. Also, if you read Edgar Allan Poe where someone dies, you kind of know it's likely going to end up with them dead in one way or another. But what we see is they go into the cellar and they're trying this wine, but also it's getting colder. He's like, hey, I don't want you to get sick and things like that. That entire story drips with dramatic irony in that we know what's going to happen, but Fortunato does not. He finds out when he essentially gets locked in the cellar and in the catacombs and is going to die that way. That is one of the stories. In Dragon Ball, we get it in an interesting way because we essentially get it 3 times. Okay, so one of the good things about the Dragon Ball franchise is that you can essentially jump in at any point and you probably don't feel like you miss much. So one of the things I hear from a channel I follow and that I actually very much enjoy is that they don't understand why how people can watch Super or other things without watching something like the original Dragon Ball or Z or something like that, and they're more familiar with the Cell and Buu arc, for example. The thing is, and I think that is something important to be grasped, is that with Dragon Ball you can jump in at any arc and not feel like you're missing much. So for example, when I was watching originally, I watched Z first before I went to Dragon Ball, but the way I watched Dragon Ball Z was not the way that it was intended to be watched, essentially. I started watching Dragon Ball Z Kai, and at first, I thought that Z and Kai were the same thing. Turns out they were not. I did not realize. So when I couldn't get the arc I wanted to watch, I wanted to watch a different arc, and I think it was if it stopped running on Nicktoons for a while, so I couldn't watch I think the Buu arc or something like that, and I wanted to watch that last arc. So what ended up happening was I was trying to figure out, or I wanted to get ahead or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but I was trying to figure out where I was. So I was typing in to the series to watch it in Spanish on YouTube, and I ended up, the first episode I started watching from Z was actually, I think, episode 119 or 120, where we have the Goku and Piccolo learning to drive, which was a filler episode. I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is, but I also didn't feel like I missed anything. That's the whole point, that you can, and then I eventually, went back and watched Dragon Ball, and I've also watched the entirety of Dragon Ball Z. The thing is that you can essentially start with Z or start with Super, and it probably doesn't feel like you missed anything because, 1, you get caught up because the other characters might reveal information, or 2, you have a narrator that might just tell you and catch you up on what happened in the other series. That's the thing about Dragon Ball, that you can just jump in, right? So if you have never watched the original, let me explain a scene. I think it's from episode 11. Essentially, Goku is in his first adventure to collect the Dragon Balls, and they are in this place kind of locked up by or imprisoned of some way in some way by Emperor Pilaf. This is the very very first arc. If you have not watched Dragon Ball, it's just, the Dragon Ball arcs go from a bit silly, it's just very like comedic and adventurous, and they slowly grow darker and darker until you reach the darkest being the King Piccolo arc. So that's kind of how it goes. So one of the things that is that there is a full moon. Now, by this point, we don't know that Goku is a Saiyan. We find that out in Dragon Ball Z. The way that they have a conversation here, the way those persons have a conversation here, and Goku tells them about a monster that kills his grandfather, because by this point, Grandpa Gohan is dead. And the way that he talks about it is like, my grandfather said never to go out in the full moon, that there is a monster that comes and stuff like that. Now, the audience, we're like, okay, what's this about? We are kind of like left trying to figure out what that is. And then just later, Goku transforms into the Great Ape. And the other characters realize, oh, that is the monster that the grandpa was talking about. And they realize that Goku kills his grandfather. They don't tell him this, but they realize that is what happens, that Goku kills his grandfather. So this also leaves us to wonder, one, how, but also, two, this also lets us know without actually telling us. This is subtext too, that the grandfather probably when Goku was younger, before telling him that, realized that this is what happened in a full moon, and probably had to deal with it at least one time. So he warned Goku not to go out during the full moon. So we get this knowledge. Now we jump back to Dragon Ball Z, and what in the first episode, there is a reunion. It has been 5 years since the original Dragon Ball. So we have a reunion of Goku and his friends. And one of the things they know, Goku goes with his son, Gohan. And one of the things they notice is that Gohan has a tail. And one of the things they ask Goku, because the characters are aware of what can happen, is like, hey, has he gone out in a full moon? Has he seen a full moon? And he's like, no, we go to bed pretty early. So I don't think he's ever even seen one. We later do see Gohan transform into a Great Ape. But one of the other things that we then see, it comes back again, because if you're watching Z and without having watched Dragon Ball, you're like, what's this about? Why are they asking this, right? But it comes back later again, and this comes back when Goku is fighting Vegeta, and he realizes, oh, so this is what happened. This is the ape. This is what my grandfather is talking about. So he realizes he killed him, and he's like, whenever I reach Otherworld, I'll make sure to tell my grandfather I'm sorry. And it was really effective. As you can see, it was a twist maybe the first time, because we're just learning a little bit more about Goku. But when it comes back again to the different characters, it's very effective, because we get to see their reaction, whether it's sadness, whether it's, excitement of something. It can work. You can absolutely use it in books. I do not know why this is such an underutilized writing device. I would like to know why this is such an underutilized storytelling device. If you have any thoughts, let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to say about the review. I do want to move on really quickly before I leave to give you some updates. This was actually supposed to be out a couple of weeks ago. However, I have sleep issues that I'm pretty sure I have mentioned in this channel, and I have had a really hard time with sleep the last couple of weeks, to such a degree that I have been sleeping only like 3 or 4 hours a night, and it has been terrible for the most part. I barely am functioning. I don't always have enough energy. There was a day that I only slept 3 to 4 hours, and I don't know how I got through my college day. My friend actually saw me and looked and essentially was like, I've never seen you like this. This is actually quite bad. So it hasn't really been a great time. I have been able to thankfully secure a test, a sleep study, which I will be taking later today. I will say that I was fighting with my insurance a couple months ago to get it, because they wanted me to take the home test. That's the one they approved, but they did not approve an in-lab test. However, if you're aware of any of this, if you're blind, what happens is that it's not these medical devices aren't necessarily always made accessible. It may be quote unquote simple to use, but it isn't accessible all the time. And sometimes I just had I may also have a difficulty with transportation, depending on the days that I could pick it up and drop it off. Because the thing is, you had to go pick it up and you had to go drop it off before 12 because that's when it would collect data. Also, if the home test failed, then insurance either way had to either way approve an in-lab test. So I appealed the home test to hopefully get an in-lab test. They declined me. I guess they consider it not medically necessary. So I had to try to figure out, it took me a while to figure out whether I could pay for this out of pocket without any consequences. And according to United, they don't have any stipulation for members paying for stuff out of pocket. So I ended up paying for my sleep study out of pocket, $800 that could have been spent for anything, but it is for this. I am hopeful that this will give my sleep specialist enough of what she might need to hopefully in June begin any kind of treatment, anything I need, because the way that my sleep is working, it's not good. I was often not getting enough sleep. I would go to sleep at 9, wake up at like 11, and then I wouldn't be able to like go to sleep until like say 1:30, maybe 2. I also attempted to sleep a little bit later, 10 or 11, and it would still take me till about 1 or 2 to go back to sleep. It was really bad. So the last couple of weeks have actually been kind of rough on me. Personally, I'm also kind of getting ready to graduate in the next couple of weeks. That one's not too bad because it would be really easy to. That's not like the school work is not bad, but when you're not getting enough sleep, it does exacerbate things. So I sort of have been. I have had a really rough couple of weeks, and I just have tried to keep going, but honestly, I could not muster up the time to edit or like the energy to edit. I was so tired most of the time, and it has been a struggle for me personally with the sleep. So yeah, it has been a lot. In order to, I guess, sort of circumvent this, I'm deciding, I usually put shorts on Wednesdays, but I'm just deciding to schedule them along with these reviews. Everything will just be on a Friday. But yeah, it has been a really, really rough couple of weeks, and I've just been kind of just like trying to, I'm just trying to take it day by day. But I'm really hoping that in June I have a clear, something clear, anything, you guys, anything. At this point, I'm very, very tired. And I say June, by the way, because I will be flying. This will be up hopefully on May 2nd. The next day I will be flying to Dominican Republic, and I will be there for a month. So I will not be able to start anything till I get back in June. So hopefully I will have that done. I'm trying to schedule content for when I'm gone. I'm hoping I can edit everything. I'll find some free time to edit and upload. But yeah, so for the next 2 weeks, I have a short review, a very short, it'll be a YouTube short next week. And then the next long review is going to be When She's Shy by Ruby Dixon. So I hope that you enjoy that. And yeah, that is why this has not been up. This has been taken forever. I was hoping to just get it in the week I said I would, but I've had a bit rough. Anyway, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications. And also subscribe to my blog. I'm not posting as much there now. I'm sort of posting more occasionally now. I have to release an announcement to what I'm doing because I've burned out of it here and there, trying to release written reviews and all that stuff weekly. I'm no longer doing written reviews because it's very time consuming. So instead, I'm going to pivot more to creative content, and that's going to be more occasional. Or if I do schedule a bunch of stuff, it'll be because I have all this stuff, that kind of thing. Or I could just go to publish once a month if I can, or whenever. I'm not going to hold myself to something strict for my blog. So that's that. So visit my website, subscribe to my blog, check out my books. There will be a link in the description if you're interested. I have a poetry collection, but I also have a literary fantasy novelette, if you are interested in those things. Anyway, with that out of the way, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.